Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Far From the Tree, a podcast where you can learn, laugh, and even cry with us, your host, mother and daughter duo. I'm Jamie Dawn, and Tatiana Mazel is my daughter here with me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Far From the Tree, a podcast where you can learn, laugh, and even cry with us, your host, mother and daughter duo. I'm Jamie Dawn, and Tatiana Mazel is my daughter here with me. And I am an ICF leadership coach and astrologer, and Tatiana is a resident therapist dedicated to be of service to others through our gifts and life experiences. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, maybe a smoothie like Tatiana has today, or some water that I have, and share this sacred space with us. Who knows what fruit may fall in your laps as you tune in to Far From the Tree and watch us here. And thank you. This is episode 4, where we are disconnecting from DNA. That's what we're going to be talking about. This is the parent-child series that we've started, and we're now episode 4 in here. And I know. So before we jump in, though, hi, Tatiana.
Hello.
What's the weather like inside of your world today?
Man, you know what? I thought about this yesterday and I had a great answer.
Good.
And
That was
now
yesterday.
today, I know, isn't it? It's like spring flowers are blooming. That's what it feels like.
Excellent. Well, it looks like your internet wants to lag again, but
Oh,
we're
great.
just gonna roll with it. People are just gonna have to be more interested, hopefully, in the content than watching your lagging.
I will stay as still
movements.
as possible.
It's okay. You know what? This is where we just don't take life too seriously.
Thanks, Mercury.
That's right. Mercury is moving into shadow starting tomorrow. We're recording this the day before. And those of you who follow me also on this YouTube station, if you will, YouTube platform, channel, whatever platform, over at Jamie Dawn, you'll know that I do my celestial wisdom videos for every week, giving you astrological, energetic forecast of what may be transpiring. And when Mercury's retrograde, it has a tendency to wreak a little havoc on our technology, communication, transportation, all things that help us to communicate and send messages, things like that.
But joy.
It is. So that's where I always remind people, please keep a sense of humor. And that is my weather inside of my world. I was pondering before we started recording, I was cooking some spinach, and I was like, why is it that an entire bag of spinach, when you cook it, reduces to 2 bites?
I love that picture where it's like, oh, a whole bag of spinach in a pan and cooked.
Exactly.
It's great.
So I guess my world is full of curiosity today, humor, and the nonsensical things that mean nothing in the grand scheme of things.
I thought you were going to say your world is full of spinach today, but
Oh, that it is too.
okay,
Lots of
good.
spinach. Yes, a whole bag. But like I say, reduced to 2 whole forkfuls. So, yes. Anyways, call me Popeye. No, don't. Never mind.
Okay, olive oil. Moving on.
Yeah, so we're recording this episode, episode 4, and I've titled it Disconnecting from DNA, when parent-child relationships must change or end. And then we have that beautiful phrase that you queued up on episode 3, blood is thicker than water. You want to expand on that?
I was gifted the full phrase by my chiropractor. Shout out to Dr. Joe at Omni Family Chiropractic and his wife, Dr. Maxine, in Richmond, Virginia. The full phrase, as he told me, is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And that just really changed everything for me.
How so?
Because it actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. Blood is thicker than water. It's like, no. it's not. Like, maybe scientifically or to the senses, sure. But I think a lot of us have had experiences where family deserts you, is not there for you, is not trustworthy. And the entire phrase, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, as it was explained to me, is the people you break bread with, the people you go to war with, the people that are in your closest circle, that covenant that you make together is thicker than the water of the womb, the person that pushes you out of their body, the people that you're born into, that family circle. And this really speaks to family of origin and family of choice.
Absolutely.
We don't get to choose our family of origin, but we do get to choose, obviously, our family of choice, those people that we want to be around, the people that we find trustworthy, the people that make us feel good and safe and alive, because that's not always the family circle that we're born into. I shared this phrase with a client last night because we're on the topic of something needs to change within my family dynamic because I'm always excluded and so on and so forth. And I gave them this phrase and they'd never heard it before and they have a military background. I said, I don't think I need to explain it to you. And she was like, no, you don't. I got it. I'm going to ponder that. I said, good, that's your homework. Let me know what you figure out over the next week about how this affects you. Because this, I mean, that phrase in its entirety is just like, wow, that makes a whole lot more sense than blood is thicker than water.
Yeah. In the ancient days, I mean, long before modern times, that was how a lot of bonds were formed, is that contracts were signed with the blood. You'd prick your finger, a seal, a wax seal, often was in the color red to represent blood. And it was all about, you hear the term blood brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was that essence of blood is life-giving, it's bonding, it's life force. Water can wash away blood, but blood congeals and bonds you together, and you share. It also blood carries that DNA, and so you share this kind of inseparableness with the blood versus the water. So
right, I hadn't thought about it that way. I usually think of men going off to war.
Sure,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
They're, brothers in arms, and it's like, well, I'm shedding blood with you here on this battlefield, and we can't explain what it is that's going on right here, right now, in this moment to people back home. They have to be here to see it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
so, and way back when, there was blood sacrifices that were made,
Mm-hmm.
and that would bond people together because they were coming in ritual together and saying, this is what we're using the blood of the animal to bond us, to seal this particular confirmation, this particular thing that we're offering.
Right.
So yeah, it's a whole interesting dynamic, but I love that phrase too, because it does bring things to a point. So, and you've already somewhat defined what family of origin versus family of choice is. Just to deepen that a little bit, the family of origin doesn't necessarily mean biological. It's where it's who raised you, who influenced or impacted you as a child. And then choice, as you mentioned, are those that we consider to be the closest people that we would consider to be our family. Sometimes it is our biological people still, and sometimes it's not.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Why would someone choose a different family member than the one they were originally parented by?
There's a plethora of reasons. I don't know if we could ever cover the entire spectrum of those things, but if there's unhealthy dynamics, dysfunctional relationships, if there's any sort of abuse or neglect, if we don't feel like we fit in with those people, if we don't feel like we can trust them, I think belonging is one of the biggest factors. So listening to Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, she talks about belonging, and she does a study with, I think it was 6th graders. And she asked, what's the difference between fitting in and belonging? And they gave just amazing answers. And essentially, like, fitting in was like kind of conforming to the crowd, and belonging was showing up as your authentic self. And she'd said, there is nothing worse than the pain of feeling as though you do not belong in your own home. And that can be parental expectations, that can be abuse, that can be religious or political ideations or ideologies that are mandatory. It can be a host of things, but if we're not able to show up as our most authentic selves, especially with the people that are raising us, it just leaves us feeling empty. There's a void. When you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, love and belonging is on there. It's an essential need of life. It's an essential need of us as human beings to feel complete, so that we could at some point reach that self-actualization of being our best and highest self. And when our family of origin doesn't give us that, we go and we seek it out somewhere else.
Absolutely. It is intrinsic for us as human beings to connect and be in relationship with somebody, something, and feeling that sense of belonging that you're beautifully talking about. And oftentimes, I know for myself, growing up, it was a short thing as far as I want to say it was second grade, third grade. Anyways, I would tell people that I thought I was adopted. And my mom, she got offended. I mean, clearly, she got offended. She goes, "You got to stop telling people that you're adopted." And I was like, "But I don't look like you. I don't think like you. I don't act like you." And I do look like my mother. I mean, it's clear. But in my mind, in my 8, 9-year-old mind, I didn't feel like I belonged because I didn't embrace the ideology and some of the religious philosophy that was being pushed on me. And there was that constant feeling that I was judged, or that whole fitting in, I wouldn't conform, and so therefore I didn't belong,
right?
Because I refused to conform. So it was all of that. And also I grew up a tomboy, the girl who said, anything you can do, I can do better. And especially if it was a competition and there was boys involved. And I never understood the whole, just because my brother was a boy, he could do something and I was a girl, I couldn't, so it was that whole dynamic of not feeling that I belonged because I couldn't think the way that other people wanted me to think. And my 5th grade school teacher, I just bought my first pair of, well, my parents did, my first pair of high tops. And I was wearing them, and there was my first introduction to basketball, and I was playing on the asphalt court with the boys because there's no other girls that wanted to play. And the teacher comes to me and she said, "You really should dress like a young lady and not wear those shoes." And I said, "I'm not a young lady, I'm a tomboy." So
we love sexism and misogyny. It's great.
yes, but that's what helped shape me, right? And then it translated into my adult life, where I just really didn't feel like I belonged with the conservative mindset, the boxes or the labels that society said I should fit in. So I went looking for my family of choice.
Was there ever any internalized like self-hatred or self like sexism for yourself?
As far as being a girl?
Yeah. Like, oh, I should behave like a girl in this time because what is like 70s and 80s, like I should conform to these norms, and I don't. And do I hate myself for that? You know what I mean?
I never hated myself. That's a strong word. I think there was a part of me that was embarrassed or ashamed because inside of me, that internal conflict said it would be inauthentic of me. I should do it. I mean, I went to a school that had dress code and we had to wear dresses and skirts and all that sort of thing. So I had to dress like a girl, in that respect. But my preference was to wear shorts or jeans and tennis shoes, and very casual. And that way I could play sports when I, needed to move, and I love to compete and that sort of thing. And so I think it was more of the belief I should want these things, but I didn't. So was that embarrassment or that ashamed piece of it?
Right.
How about you?
I remember wanting to fit in a lot when we moved to Virginia Beach. I remember there was a very big shift from living in Charleston and being friends with everyone there. Everyone in Charleston was just welcoming and warm, at least on my end. I don't know how it was for y'all as parents, but the kids, it didn't seem like anyone really cared about income or status or anything. Like, we were all just schoolmates, we were friends, everyone got along. And I remember when we moved, I had to like fight for my place in the classroom, with especially with the girls, because there was a girl before me that had left, and I came in and kind of filled in that spot, but I was always compared to, oh, you'll never be Danielle, you'll never be as good as her. And there was like two separate groups of girls that were together, and I had to figure out where I fit in each of those. And I ended up finding one, they were just as weird as I was, and it was awesome. It was great. But then eventually they left so they could go to school closer to where they lived, and I was stuck with the other two who I was friends with, but they were meaner. They were meaner girls. And when I was with them, I found myself really trying to fit in the way I dressed and the clothes that I had. And of course, we couldn't afford that kind of stuff, so it was a special occasion. Limited two, or it's called Justice now, but limited two was the hot thing for us little girls, and that's what we wanted, right? So that was a little hard. But as far as fitting in otherwise, I don't know. If I think back on it, like, I think I've always wanted to be impressive, whether that's athletics or academics or friends or anything like that. And I've had a lot of humbling moments since grade school where that's not always the case. And kind of just figuring out, where do I fit in? Especially now that we moved to Florida, right? Like, that was the biggest thing, was I don't feel impressive in the gym anymore, because everyone is like there to achieve their goals. Everyone there looks good. Everyone is on their own personal journey. And I had to sit with that and just say, wow, like, at first I thought I was embarrassed, and then I changed that narrative. I said, I am humbled to no longer be the impressive one. I am now humbled to be part of this crowd as opposed to standing out.
Yeah, that whole standing out, it doesn't leave a lot of belonging. For me,
Right.
the idea of belonging as well, or the feeling of belonging, is radical acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
That there is even if you don't always approve of the way I dress, the way I act, the way I talk, whatever, there's an acceptance and there's still a love there. And for me, that's the belonging piece. And I did not have that when, at least I didn't feel that hardly ever at home growing up. And it wasn't that my parents don't love me, because they do. They did the best they can with what they were given, and they absolutely share love. And there was there was marked moments, but it was the whole, I had to conform, or I had to fit in, as we described, that pushed me out of that feeling of radical acceptance. And I've had marked points throughout my adult life where, there hasn't been a lot of acceptance of my choices. And in doing so, the way it has been communicated to me by actions as well as conversation is, we love you, but we can't support you in any way. And I mean, there was, even if it's not, just emotional support or anything like that. And so it really pulled at me as far as finding my sense of belonging. And then for those who know me and follow me, there's also the belief systems that I was raised in versus what I have now, and how polarized they can be. Or the fact that, I always joke, and it's not a joke, I believe in everything and nothing. Most people hate that phrase, because it's like, what does that mean? It's like, I have my belief system, but it's mine. That doesn't mean that yours is wrong. It just means that it's mine. And And if we can come together accepting that and share space with each other, then there's that sense of belonging, right? But for me, I didn't have that. I didn't feel that way. It was that constant judgment, And I think for those who are watching, listening, that, this whole idea of family of choice versus origin often happens when we are seeking, we'll say, the weirdos, like you're pointing out, those girls that were just as weird as you, or for me, it was those people who were eclectic, who thought out of the box, who didn't want to be labeled as just this kind of mindset. I love open-minded philosophical conversations, and things like that, or people that just were like, yeah, I mean, I'll use Judaism, for example, since that's how you and your brother were raised. It's like, yeah, I'm Jewish. Okay. And I'm not. That's okay too. We can still be friends. Great.
Right.
You know,
Right. I'll say, it's interesting. I don't think I ever felt like I didn't belong when you and Dad were together. I don't think I ever had that. I think it became more apparent when you guys got divorced, the dynamics of the families, right? And I notice myself when I go and spend time with his side, like I have this physical reaction of, am I going to be okay? And of course, when I get there, I'm like, girl, you can handle yourself. You're grown. You have the tools. You have the skills. You know who you are. And I think that most important thing is, do we belong to ourselves first before we can belong anywhere else? I know who I belong with as far as family of choice, and I know that my family members that I do have origin wise, they do love and care about me, right? Your side, his side, everything, right? The way it's expressed is different, and that's fine. But I also know that at the end of the day, I know who I am and I know how I can show up. I know where I have to meet people so that I can have a relationship with them, even if it's not the one that I want. It's still a form of a relationship. And if we can ultimately say, I know me, I love this version of me, I'm good, I belong here, centered in my own heart and mind, then we can find belonging with other people.
absolutely. And I'll point to this astrologically, is that when I look at a chart, I want to see where that family of origin, the familial patterns, if you will, that often show up. I'll look at that. It's called the IC, the Immunocoli, but which we just label as IC because it's a pain in the ass to say. But and it's also usually the third, fourth, fifth houses there, depending on the chart and what we're using, or house system that we're using. But what I will look at for that, it gives us our roots, our foundation, if you will. Think of it like a tree. And I'll be able to see if, for instance, I have Chiron, which is our wounded healer, or the archetype of Chiron being the one who heals, who can never heal their wound, but it's through their wounds that they find their greatest gifts. And so I have Chiron in my fourth house, which is, again, the roots of the system, the roots of the tree, the foundation of where we are raised, if you will. It's also our family ties, it's our history, our ancestry, and having those wounds there in order. And part of my mission, if you will, in life has been to heal those wounds and to be able to have that sense of belonging within myself and fully accept my ancestors and know and recognize that just because my ancestors were not perfect doesn't mean I can't accept them because they gave me life, right? So I'm just pointing that out as an astrologer, that everybody has that third, fourth, fifth house in their chart, and it has different aspects that tell me this is the kind of family upbringing, origin, choice, that sort of thing that you might be drawn to, that have helped shaped you psychologically, emotionally, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to make that little connection. But what do you find has been a catalyst for myself, for you, others, to say, you know what, I don't want this family of origin, I choose this family? So what might prompt us to go that direction?
I don't know. It seems like a loaded question.
It is.
Okay. There's a lot of factors. Like, and if you're experiencing abuse or neglect of any kind, that's probably a sign that that relationship is obviously it's not healthy right then and there. And if it continues, especially as you grow into adulthood, you have that choice to say, I'm done with this. Do not contact. You can get restraining orders. You can, don't contact me, change your phone number, change your email, whatever you have to do to get out of that kind of toxic relationship, then do that. If you have the courage to speak up about abuse or neglect of any kind, yes, there are concerns that it's going to hurt other family members. It's going to cause discord. It's going to cause divorce or jail time or what have you. At the same time, you matter most at the end of the day, not anybody else. And if you continue to go to sleep every night in fear or in doubt or in shame or anything like that, you deserve to find help in some way and to find peace. And again, it doesn't have to be, we're talking about very toxic, abusive relationships. It doesn't have to be pressing charges or anything like that. But talk to somebody, find a therapist, find a domestic violence association, find a social worker, someone you can confide in that can help you navigate these things. If for some reason the relationship is unhealthy to the extent that y'all don't agree on a lot of things, do you want the relationship? Do you still want those people in your life in any capacity? Can you meet them where they're at? And this really takes a lot of self-work, that part of it, to know that these people may not change. Am I okay with that? Can I accept that? It sucks. There's no way around it because obviously we have expectations of people just as they have expectations of us, right? But can we meet them where they're at and just have that kind of relationship? We're not going to talk politics. We're not going to talk religion. We're not going to talk sexual orientation. We're not going to talk, living style, whatever the discord is. Maybe we don't talk about it anymore. Maybe we just say, hey, how's the weather? How's your job? How's school? How are the kids? How's wife? Whatever. Okay, we can do that. Maybe it looks like just texting or a phone call instead of, a week-long family vacation. If that idea drives you nuts, use your time boundaries. I only have 2 days to spend with you because of whatever reason you need for yourself, and you don't have to justify yourself to anybody. I have these 2 days. That's it. But that 2 days is more than 0 days. And if that helps you keep your sanity with them and you're okay with that, go for it. Does that answer your question?
Part.
In part, yeah.
Yeah,
like I said,
you're right.
loaded.
It's a loaded question for sure. But it's good information and it's a good reminder too that boundaries are important. We talked about that in our last episode and even some previous ones. And it's not an easy thing for so many of us who want to belong. I mean, what would we sacrifice just to belong, And it's not worth it at the end of the day. And let's just say that we've disconnected from that family of origin member. It could be the entire family. I mean, you just never know, but let's just say we've disconnected from them. Some of the challenges that can arise when that happens, because remember, wherever we go, there we are, is
Right.
we're carrying some of the expectations, the trauma, the baggage, whatever there might be. We're going to carry that into our next relationships. And so it's going to take time and healing and work to be able to trust even these new family members, if you will, family members of choice. And we have to learn and maybe relearn ways in which we interact with others and maybe learn some new things about what an actual healthy relationship is. I can tell you that for me, in various situations, I've been in these healthy relationships and I don't always know it. It's almost like you don't trust it and you go, wait a minute, this is really okay. And you test it for a while, I shared with you a little incident I had last week, and I was like, wow, I'm really proud of myself because in my past, this is my romantic relationship. In my past, I'd run or I'd fight or whatever. Instead, because I'm developing over time this real secure relationship within myself first, I was able to stand in the middle of that and be secure, create a secure environment so that the conversation could flow, so that the individual would know, I'm not running, I'm not fighting, I'm open, I'm gentle, I'm curious, you're safe with me. I mean, it was just a really nice thing, but all I can say is it's been a labor of love. I'll be 50 next year. it's and it's
Woo!
still ongoing. This is not perfection. I'm sure I'm going to have my moments, but it's one of those things where some of these once you make that choice and you draw in your family members of choice, there can be a lot of intense emotions that arrive. Like I mentioned, you may not trust it, you may doubt, is this really as good as it's too good to be true kind of thing, right? So those are some things to just pay attention to, that when it happens, it's okay, that's human.
Mhm. Also, to be said, when you have a healthy relationship with somebody and you feel safe, having those open and clear, direct conversations of, I don't, I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know where we stand. I would like to be able to navigate the situation with you. Like, those conversations can absolutely happen with someone that we trust, that we feel safe with. Because I know I only mentioned like difficult relationships, but a relationship that you find worth it to maintain. Healthy relationships can withstand conflict. They grow from conflict. Conflict doesn't mean fighting and yelling. It means we have a disagreement or we have an issue or a topic that needs to be addressed. And I'm going to do this in a very appropriate way with you and just see how we can resolve it, because you mean that much to me and I want our relationship to continue and flourish. And it sounds like last week that's exactly what you did too.
Well, I jokingly say I have to practice what I preach. It's not a joke either. But if the relationship is more important than the subject matter, you stay with it, you know? And I think that's probably the hardest part. I know that those who are in our audience have probably had this similar experience, but I can be a little long suffering with certain, or highly tolerant in certain circumstances and situations in various relationships. And when do you know the right time is to leave? When do you know if the right time to disconnect or to take a step back? Maybe you're not leaving, you just need some space. A lot of times people get very consternated. I know I did, in making some of my decisions of like, there's never going to be a good time for this. So what am I doing?
Yeah. And in some ways there's not a good time. And every situation is different. Everyone's threshold for, their tolerance is different. And it's really going to depend on all of the pieces of the equation that are going on.
Yeah. I think also it's really important that as we're navigating this thing of family by choice or origin, and really, again, I'll go back to family of choice. I think we all live in a world of family of choice if we really get conscious about it, because we always have a choice, and we're not trapped. It is up to us to be able to say, this is who I want to spend time with, or this is who I want to call my beloveds or whatever, right? So we always have that choice. And I think also it comes back, a lot of people in my circle, when they ask about relationship and all of that, and you hear the phrase, so many practitioners and professionals will say, first have the relationship with yourself. And they're like, what does that mean? I want the relationship with the other person. I don't want it, just with me. But it's crucial. One of the best things I ever did was spend some time falling in love with myself, radically accepting myself, moving through those stages of loneliness, and really having that alone time and feeling alone, feeling lonely, not just being alone, but actually going through all those things and getting underneath the layers that are there and peeling them back. And then going, you know what? Can I trust myself and my decisions? And you know what? Sometimes I made stupid decisions, and sometimes I still will. And
Mm-hmm.
and I label them stupid simply because they were unconscious. Maybe I should say it that way. Or I didn't think about it. I just kind of went where angels dare to tread. But being okay with that self-love, that self-acceptance created more trust and security for myself. And so I push back and say, you want to cultivate a healthy partnership with someone else, you do have to have that security and safety within yourself. Do you agree?
I agree. At the same time, what I will say is that I think a lot of people think you can't do it when you're with someone, and I don't believe that's the truth. I believe that if two people are coming together, in general, you are two individual people having your individual experience, choosing to be together and have a conjoined life. You are still going to have all of your personal issues that you will ever have and have to deal with them by yourself a lot of the time. That being said, you can absolutely grow as an individual within a relationship with your partner, so long as certain things are done, like communicating with them. Like, by and large, communication is key. Any couple I treat, I want to work on communication. Cool. Sounds good. What about communication is the problem? Then we have to work on trust, and then we have to work on respect. My respect and communication and trust are the absolute three things that relationships need to succeed. And if any of those are lacking, we're going to have some kind of issue. But as an individual, if you're saying, oh man, I read this awesome book, can I process this with you? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. If your partner supports you in your growth, whether that's academic or financial or physical or emotional, you have a really healthy, safe partner and you can grow. They're going to watch you grow. It might be really hard for them. And hopefully what they do is support you and say, wow, that was amazing to watch you, from 19 to 29. I've seen so many changes. Or even, January to March. Oh my God, like that was incredible. And at some point, you're going to watch them grow too. And it might be really hard for you. Sometimes it might be painful. But if you can still support that person and say, I know this is what you need right now, and I'm here. I can't walk it for you, but I can walk it with you as much as you let me. You can grow with someone. Individual growth is very important, and you can do it with someone that supports you in doing it too.
Thank you for that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And my experience of my alone time was what I needed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it certainly is something that I think is important. At the same time, you're absolutely right. You can do it with your partner. So one other piece I'll point out, astrologic as an astrologer, is that I often find the most common times when parent, child, or family of origin, family of choice relationship dynamics change is at big transition points, like from high school to college, college to young adult singledom kind of thing. But the majority is at a Saturn return. And what that is happens around between the ages of 28 and 30, depending on your chart and stuff. And so oftentimes, because of that, Saturn is our archetype of the parent, the authority figure, often the taskmaster, the one that says, okay, there's structure and there's discipline in your life. Well, you're born, at that Saturn moment, Saturn's in your chart there. And then at around 28, between 20 and 30, it comes back to that same station to say, okay, what have you learned over the last 28, 30 years, whatever, over time? And now, how do you parent yourself? How do you establish yourself as an authority and discipline yourself? Maybe you don't need your family members the way that you thought you did. Now you're ready to step into your own sense of agency, your own sense of self. And so there's that often that awareness of, wait a minute, I'm not confined anymore to that old way. I want to either integrate it, so I'll take my family of origin with me, or here I need a new family.
Right.
So any last thoughts on this before we wrap up? Some resources or anything that you feel would be of great value for our audience?
I don't know. I feel like we kind of jumped around a lot here, but hopefully everyone found it valuable or resonated with at least some piece of it. Um, if you're ever questioning things for yourself and you don't know who is safe and who to trust, seek a professional. There's plenty of people out there that are willing to help, that can do a good job. If you haven't, again, had a positive experience the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, I'm so sorry, but there is someone out there for you that you will mesh with. If you don't know who to go to, your primary care physician usually has referrals. They can do that. If you have insurance, you can call the insurance company. They can see who's in your network. Professionals look like a lot of people. Again, it can be social workers, can be mental health counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, anybody. If you find helpful information from social media, use it. At the same time, please know that it's not a substitute for actual professional help, because these are people's tips and tricks and things that they've learned. It's not actually going to help you process in the fullest way. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think to summarize what we are trying to point out in this particular episode is that we always have a choice, that humans need to belong. We know that Brene Brown has done a lot of work on that and many others, but that we as human beings do need to belong in order to thrive, in order to live our best lives. And so if you are feeling that you don't have your pack, you don't have your tribe, your family, that sort of thing, please don't give up on finding them, on seeking them out. It's really important. And I do believe that if you are struggling, like Tatiana pointed out, get a professional. And one of the things that I love to do with coaching is asking some deep and really powerful questions that can maybe invoke, if you're not sure where to begin, then this can get you started. So just know you're not alone. None of us are, even though we're walking our own individual journeys. We're doing this together. So let's lean in and lift each other up.
Right. Also, find meetup groups or things that you're interested in. Sign up for a sports team a sport that you like or is different. Find a coffee meetup or a hiking meetup or anything like that. Take your dog to the dog park. You never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah, stay open.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for this episode, Tatiana, and for joining me.
Thank you.
And you can find me at jamiedawn.com. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Psychology Today. If you're in the state of Virginia and looking for a new therapist and anything I said resonates with you, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And of course, we're on social media. But
yep.
You can look at jamiedawn.com and got all my social medias there. So, all right, you guys. Thanks for watching, listening to Not Far From the Tree, and we'll see you in our next episode, episode 5.
Bye, y'all.